Hello everyone, today I have Steve Larsen, the one and only Author King, and many other things that he's known for. I'm so excited, I'm literally shaking. Can you guys see this? I've never shaken on my show before. This is like so awesome. I'm so excited. Welcome Steve, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Doing fantastic.
Like I said, I love your office. It looks really, really cool. And the 𝑡ℎ𝑒 Club Awards there. I'm sure you're going to add another one soon, I assume.
It's on the way, actually. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you tell the people a little bit about, you're not going into too much detail because I know your story is off, you've got an amazing story, but keep it short so we have limited time and I've got a lot of questions for you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. I was very poor for a long time and kept trying to launch a whole bunch of different products and offers. None of them worked for about 5 years. And then started learning how it worked on the internet. And my stuff started working. I ended up working for Russell Brunson and I was his funnel builder for a few years. And then I left because I just can't get rid of the entrepreneur itch. And I left a few years ago and started running everything on my own also, and gradually bootstrapped it out of a bedroom. Then we got an office, and it's been a fun journey. So it's been yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. I am self-crowned as the offer guy. So.
Well, you're pretty good at that. Okay, so what was that defining moment that you said, okay, that's it, Russell, I am leaving you and I'm on my own mission? What defined that moment? What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, to leave like that. It's one of the hardest decisions I've made because I love him. He's like an older brother to me. In fact, we were talking today, like right before I got on with you here. Great relationship still. There was a moment where he saw me looking at a few other entrepreneurs who were startups. This is when we were in the old office, because my desk was literally in his same office. And I remember this very, very well. He saw me seeing other successful brand new businesses. And he sent me a message that night. He goes, "Hey man, I know, and you could go do that too. I just want to thank you for being here with me for a little while. That means a lot." Oh. And he said, "By the way, whenever you choose to go, I actually completely understand." And it was like so cool of him to say that, because it could have gone very differently,
Yeah.
And so there was just a moment for me where I don't know, I was teaching a lot of his students on his own stages.
Yeah.
And all of my students were making way more money than I was, which is a great feeling. It's a great feeling to know that your work is like really working, but I was like, I'd like a slice of that too. So I ended up going.
Was it uncomfortable for you teaching, because that is a 𝑡ℎ𝑒 Club coaching program, right? Was it uncomfortable for you to teach that, considering, you didn't make money, like $1 million yourself by that stage?
Yeah, definitely. I was, so what happened is I was sitting there next to him one day and he was coaching his inner circle. Mm-hmm. And he took a little bit of a break. He was sitting back. He had been coaching him for like 6 hours or whatever. He muted his camera, muted his mic, turned off his camera, and he just sat back for a second and just kind of relaxed. He was like, oh, and I was sitting right there next to him. And I go, "Dude, you were saying the same thing to every single person, regardless of business." And he goes, "I know, isn't that crazy? Because it works in every company." Yeah. And we came up with the idea to develop a program that people would go through before getting to Russell. That way he could take them, from like the middle up instead of all the way from the ground. And it wasn't on his shoulders anymore. So I went through 12 years of his content. And it took me 6 months, and I organized it and I ordered it, and it became the first 𝑡ℎ𝑒 Club coaching program.
Wow.
And funny enough, that's what's being sold as Secrets Masterclass right now. I built that program and I put those things in there, and it was with his material though. And so there was an element though. I remember talking to him one night and I was like, "It's a little weird that I'm teaching your material, but I haven't done the thing that I'm teaching, even though it's yours." And he's like, "That's okay. Just preface it that way. Hey, this is what Russell did," instead of "this is what I did,"
Yeah.
And, but after a while I couldn't get past that. I had to go.
That is amazing. Wow. I didn't realize that's how it goes down, because that's like crazy actually. And did you celebrate when you did your first 𝑡ℎ𝑒 Club?
Of course. Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I want to ask you 5 questions. It's basically get to know Steve in 5 questions. So it's literally, I know it's a bit strange. I don't know if you've actually ever done this on your interview. So what's your favorite city?
Favorite city? I got a lot of them, but one of them is San Diego.
Yes, beautiful. Favorite food?
I don't really have one. I'm not picky. I don't know. Cookies.
Coffee or
I
tea?
don't, tea.
Okay. Color? Favorite color?
I don't know if there's any other color besides black and red.
Oh well, and the capitalist pig is red, so there you go. Thought about that. And then just a random question: how many domain names do you have?
I'm near 700.
Wow, that is impressive. I just had to throw a
Ugh.
question in there because I was on a Go Live once in your Facebook group and you were going through all your domain names. And I was like, I thought I'm a hoarder because I've got like close to 50. And I'm like, what? How many domain names does this guy have? So have you ever got an
Funny.
offers to sell them? Or like
Well,
to,
I'm not going to sell them. It's
yeah,
funny because if I own them, then my competition can't. I got a call from my domain person once, the domain company, Bluehost, that called me and they're like,
yeah.
excuse me, sir, you have a lot of domains. Do you want to sell any of these? And I was like, no. Are you going to do anything with them? I was like, 90% of them, no. They're like, why do you have them? I was like, because now literally my competition can't. Because I won't launch a product if I can't even find the domain to fit it. So if I have an idea and I'm like, sometime, somewhere down the line in the future, I know I'll do this, I'll buy the domain.
That's a very different approach. I don't think I know anybody that actually buy that on the main names. Okay, so my podcast is really focused around people starting out this game because I know when I started and you're the same, it's
Yeah.
really hard. You know, you've got a lot of struggles, the behind the scene things that people don't realize you actually have when you start this game. What has
Yeah.
been your biggest struggle in the last 5 years?
Imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Easily. Yeah, definitely. Everyone has it. Everyone struggles with it. I'd say it's imposter syndrome or finding my voice.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard because it is kind of a tie between a few things. There's imposter syndrome, finding the voice, and then answering the question, what do I do? That's hard because everyone kind of as an entrepreneur starting out, I feel like we have all these talents and skill sets that we kind of pick up as we go.
Yeah.
And choosing one and like getting rid of all the rest and just zero, that's hard because
Yes.
you feel like you're getting rid of a kid, you know. It's like you're killing a kid. Yeah, like which one am I going to go for? So that was a hard thing. So planting the flag as the offer guy, funny enough, I thought was going to be and feel that way.
Yeah.
It actually was the opposite. By declaring what I wanted to do and be known for, it's let me go deeper on that one subject,
Mm-hmm.
outsource all the other tasks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually free. It's been more freeing than anything else. I thought it was going to be very constricting. It wasn't.
When did you decide, or what was that thing that made you decide that you wanted to go into offers? Because I mean, you obviously did your MLM things. I followed that for a wee while as well. So what was that thing that you decided, go, offers is the thing, I'm the offer king, you know?
You know what's funny is it wasn't me.
Ooh.
I was at an inner circle dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I had already left ClickFunnels, and I was selling, and I was doing well. You know, I was doing well, and I left, and I was launching all this stuff. And one night at this inner circle dinner, you know, it was just a potluck. Everyone just brought a bunch of food. We were all hanging out at, I think, James Friel's house. And there's a lot of people that were there, right? A lot of the who's were there. It's the inner circle, you know? So I was getting food or whatever. And I just, this question was just heavy on my mind. It's like, what do I do? What's my purpose? You know, the very same question, who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
And I walk around the corner, Russell and I, and we know each other well enough. He can read me. I can read it, you know? And so he's looking at me and he looks at me across the counter and he goes, what's wrong? You okay? And I was like, yeah, man, I can't get past the question. Like, what's my purpose? Who am I supposed to be? And there are a few times in my life I have seen him laugh that hard. He keeled over and started laughing so hard. And I was like standing here kind of mortified with this deep question, you know, and Russell Brunson's like, you know, like he's really getting into it. And I was like, it's not funny, man. Like I was making fun of, it's not funny, dude. Like, what am I supposed to be? Like, you're the funnel guy. What guy am I? What am I? You know, and Myron Golden is standing next to him and he looks over at Russell and he goes, wait, what did he just ask you? And Russell, after he catches his breath, leans up just enough to go, he asked the purpose question. And then they both go down. And I'm standing here with this plate of food and they're both laughing at me. And I was like, it's not funny. And Russell was like, it took me 12 years to become the funnel guy and figure that out, Steven.
Wow.
He's like, don't worry about it. And, Myron is like, yeah, man, I'm in my 60s. I found out 3 months ago what I'm supposed to be. And I was like, okay, I know. And he's like, we know you know that. But just as a reminder, he said, don't worry about that. You don't really design that. You're going to discover it. And second of all, just go solve problems for people. Just go solve problems and it'll find you along the way. Funny enough, about 2 or 3 weeks later, he sent me a message, Russell did, and he's like, you should be the offer guy. I was like, the offer guy? Like, yeah, man, you geek out on that. You geek out so much harder than I ever have. He's like, I hate teaching offers. Like, you love teaching offers. I was like, all right, I'll think about it. And I must have not been convincing because he's talked to Dana Derricks. And Dana Derricks reached out and he's like, dude, be the offer guy. If you don't become the offer guy, some other jerk we don't like is going to try and be the offer guy. We want you to be the offer guy. And I was like, all right, I'll be the offer guy. So that's honestly the real story how it happened.
That is so cool. And I like that you actually, you discover it. It's not like I'm going to go and do this thing, because most of the time it fails, right? It's not always necessarily something that works.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of nice to do it that way, because I really truly do believe that there are things in life that we can design, but others we have to discover. You can't design it. You have to go along the way and figure it out. And often figuring out who we're supposed to be, that's a very discover-based thing, not really a design-based thing. Yeah. And because people try and force that decision. And I was such a nerd on the stuff already. They were like, hey, this would fit you. But I wouldn't have known that ahead of time. There's no way.
Yeah. Because often as entrepreneurs, and I've got a few students that I help. I do one coaching, limited because time is of the essence. But I have a few students, and they really struggle to get, or some of them really struggle to get over that hurdle of like, is this actually the thing I'm supposed to be doing? And I'm like, well, just go and figure it out. Read books, and eventually you will discover this. And 3/4 of the time, they're actually like, well, I don't actually want to do this. I'm doing this to make money. And then I'm like, well, then you're not supposed to be doing this, because if that's your purpose driving you, it's not really the right one. What do you think about broke mindset vs people failing, and growth mindset people being successful? What's your opinion on that?
That it's real for sure. Growth mindset versus broke mindset. In my opinion, it comes down to just one sees abundance and the other sees scarcity in everything, every decision. There's been people I've coached where they'll be like, okay, so just go figure out how to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, okay, but what's the answer? And I'm like, there's this thing called Google, go find it out. Like, okay, but how should I do that? I'm like, go open a tab and type Google in and go for it. You know what I mean? And I have to kind of hold their hands. Those are the people who I really believe that those people who are abundance mindset have an easier time falling in love with the journey, not just the destination. Yes. The people who are scarcity mindset, they are all destination. And if they're not there, when are we there? When are we there? How much further? When are we there? And it's just emotionally is going to wreck you because you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I have learned, and I'm very thankful to turn around proverbially and shake hands with and thank my past, however challenging it's been, because there's no way I'd be where I am right now. And I can't wait to meet the me that's 10 years from now. I think one of the biggest keys to someone who's in an abundance mindset is they love the growth for the growth's sake. Yes. Not necessarily for something that is some outcome, which is fine. And if people are there just trying to make money just to make money, that's totally cool too. There's no reason why you have to stop it if you really don't want to. This is what makes me the cash. Great. Design profit, design capitalism into your thing. Otherwise you won't make money, even if you're cash flowing. But I really think it goes back to the figuring out how what's the next piece of structured growth. And the people that have that long game vision in mind, they tend to move more fluidly than the other group. They make decisions faster. They're not as hurt personally if something doesn't work. It's not the end of the world, Yes. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I immediately can tell who those people are when I'm on a stage and I'm talking, because they're the people who listen, but they want to fact check and nitpick every single thing that I say. And it's usually the engineers, no offense, but it is. I have them raise their hands sometimes. I'll be like, hey, who's an engineer? Okay, I just want you to know you're going to be my toughest student. Stop trying to figure out how the car works. Let me just show you how to put the key in and how to turn it. drive the car. You don't need to know how the engine works. I don't know all the combustion formulas. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. I love that you say that, because I also think analytical people, that's exactly it, because they analyze everything, they pull everything apart. And that must be hard for you to teach on stage, though. How do you overcome that? Do you just call it
I
out?
call it out and I just remove
Yeah.
their power. And I tell them, hey, if this is going to be a spot where you want to just constantly fight me on everything, let's just look at results. I'm like, look at the results. You know, it's a lot of money very quickly has come in. Look at the students. You know, I've been trying to figure out how much money I've been able to help my students make. And it's like, it's getting up there. It's close, I think, to like the 100 million area. It's a lot.
Wow.
Collectively, I mean, out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, we know this stuff works. And so there's actually been times though I have fired clients because of that. I'm just like, it's not worth my time. I can't carry your belief and your strategy to grow. Like, I'm not a good life coach. Well, I'm a great life coach. People don't like what I say.
I loved it a few times in RFA and like other things that I watch from you. You would say like, I don't mean this, I'm not speaking motivational, but if this is motivational to you, then, you know, I love it when you say that.
You find it motivating. That's awesome. I'm trying to be a motivation coach.
Would you ever be a motivational coach in like your 20 years from today future? Probably not.
Nah, probably not. I just don't get into that game. If people can't motivate themselves, they're already not my student. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's the abundance versus the scarcity thing. I'm just like, I don't want to work with people where I have to hold their hand and pull them along and like constantly, like, it just, that's a solvable thing. It ends up being that, because here's the real reason why. If I have to beg them to buy from me, I usually have to beg them during fulfillment. The way that they enter my space, the way that they enter my area often it basically sets precedence for how they're going to behave and my reactions with them and how my interactions in fulfillment. And so it's the same thing. If I'm going to go be motivational, I will attract people who need motivating because they're constantly eating that stuff up, which is great. If, you know, if they're trying to learn how to self-motivate and things like that. But after a while, it's like,
it's draining, right? It's emotionally draining. You can't do it.
It's so draining. I literally have gone to therapy over it. No joke.
Yes.
Because it ends up sucking so much from you from an event
Yeah.
that you kind of have to take a step back and recharge your batteries. And it's especially true when you're working with people who don't have enough solid sense of self. And so they look for you to validate who they are because they can't do it themselves. And it is so hard to do that. I can't do that for them. You know, we're all trying to figure out who we all individually are. How can I help them figure themselves out? You know?
Exactly. About a year and a half ago, I started my journey about almost 3 years ago, and about a year and a half ago, I think it was actually in ClickFunnels, there was a post where somebody was struggling, and I said, well, you know, if anybody struggles, reach out to me. I can help you guys with a few tips and tricks or whatever. And I had this influx of messages, big mistake, never again. And anyway, so I had all these negative people messaging me, and it was my Saturday, you know, America's Friday, and I was like, that night I went to bed and I slept for like 12 hours, and I slept like 7 hours. I was exhausted, and my husband was like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm just so tired. I think these people just drained me. And that was it. And I said, never again am I dealing with people like this, because you can't. You literally cannot. It's amazing how it just kills you emotionally.
It's ridiculous. I am so tired after events, even if I don't speak at them, because it pulls things from you. And it's fine. Like, I want to help, I want to serve, but there is a reason why Russell Brunson does not answer support tickets. There's one time I was launching my own stuff, and he came in. This is our old office again. I was out there on a Saturday building my own stuff, not his. You know, he comes in, and I was like, oh, awkward. Like, hey man, I'm building my own thing right now. And he goes, what you been doing though? I was like, I have been answering messages for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And he goes, he started laughing again, and he goes, dude, can I give you like the best? Actually, this is how you handle that. Very, very powerful.
Yeah.
He said, you're not going to like it, but this is honestly it. And he leaned into me and he goes, you don't have to answer them. That was it. And he said, I know, right? Because you're a lover and you're a giver. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, so am I. It's super hard. But if you want a life, you've got to have boundaries, or they're going to suck your soul, not on purpose. But it'll just happen energetically.
I guess I just feel like it's rude not to answer people, but I think I will not answer them in future. You got to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
my life too.
I've got 2 little more questions for you. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or built?
I think they're built.
Yeah.
Because at the core of it, when you think about it, like I've been getting really into the identity. This has been on my mind a lot the last little bit.
Yeah.
What is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is literally a problem solver. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Problem solving actually is not lucrative after a little while.
No.
I'm going to identify a problem in the marketplace. I'm going to go solve it. That's all entrepreneur-based identity. But if they don't adapt the second identity, which is the identity of a marketer, you never make any money.
Yes.
A marketer's role is to deliver a solution to a market. That's why they're a marketer. So if you don't, that's the reason why there's broke entrepreneurs, is because the role of entrepreneur at the heart of it is not actually a revenue generating role.
Yes.
It's just a role that solves a problem. Unless you become a marketer, you also will not make cash. The ultimate goal is to entrepreneur something or solve something, be a marketer to introduce you to a market, but then finally be a business owner. And a business owner is someone who owns the systems that does all that stuff, you know? And that's, in my opinion, when an entrepreneur really gets to like breathe and like have a life, you know? And that is all totally learnable. I don't really think that they're born. I think they're built.
I completely.
My little 3 and 4-year-old, they're not entrepreneurs, but they're solving problems like crazy. I don't even know their problems. Their little brains are turning on, and I'm watching them, and they're like, "Hey, Dad, I had this. I didn't know how to do this thing, so I just took the popsicle sticks and put some glue, and I found a rock outside, and I put it on top here, and like, bam, it's done." I was like, "That's an entrepreneur. Like, they just solved a problem." We all are that way, you know. But to learn to do it in a marketplace and be an entrepreneur, that's very much a learned skill set too.
Do you see, okay, random question. Do you see your kids actually growing up as entrepreneurs? Are you embedding those in them?
Totally. I'm totally indoctrinating them.
What's your number one tip for doing that? How do you do it? I need to know. I'm a 3 and a 6-year-old, so I need to kind of get a tip here from you.
Oh yeah. You know, and please, everyone who's watching, listening now, like, don't follow me for this, because follow me for like the 2 things I'm amazing at. Everything else, I'm just a normal dude. I was longboarding before we got on this. You know, I'm just outside sitting around, like, anyway. So as far as like, so I don't have like tons of parenting advice, but one thing I am doing, my dad did this with me, is he gave me ownership of projects without being attached to the outcome of it. Okay. So I, as a teenager, he literally bought, he knew that I needed to own stuff.
Okay.
And so he got all the insulation, all the drywall, all the tape, all the mud, the paint, everything. And I literally finished our entire garage by myself.
Wow.
Then I needed to go, he's like, "Hey, we need another sprinkler line." Handed me a shovel, and I literally hand dug an entire sprinkler trench and learned how to build a sprinkler line and connect it to the rest of the main. Like, but that's just what he did with me. And I think it's because he could see that I don't know, that he could see that in me. As a kid, he made me the yard manager. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And I love my siblings. He had me go hire them. I didn't know how to hire my siblings, but he wouldn't. He's like, "Do you want to go do the yard managing?" And I'll just tell you, this is basically what happened. Is he's like, "Hey, I need to get the yard done. You either can do it as a chore, and I'm not going to pay you a thing, or you can treat this like a company, and I'll pay you." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Send me a proposal for how much you think it will cost you to maintain the yard to a respectable standard every single week." And I was like, "What the freak is a proposal?" You know, so I had to go on Google, and I was like, "What's a proposal?" Google was like just barely a thing. I was like 14, you know? And anyway, so I had to look up what a proposal was, and I had to go figure out what that was. And I created a report, and my dad had a home office. He worked from home. So I would just walk to the next room and hand my dad a proposal on what it took. And he was like, "I approve this proposal," and sent it on back to me. He's all, you know, official and professional stuff. And he's like, "But what about your employees?" I was like, "Employees?" He's like, "Are you going to do all that on your own?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "I was thinking that my siblings could do some of that." He's like, "Do they know that? Why don't you conduct some interviews with your siblings and see what positions you think would go best?" So I went and I had to go learn how to do interviews. So I literally sat down and I wrote contracts with my siblings on, "You will do the yard for this, you know, like, and it pays this much, and failure to do these things, you're not going to get paid, and Steven will do it, and he will take your money instead," and like all this stuff. And they went, and I literally interviewed each one of them. "Okay, you're going to mow the lawn, you're going to trim, you're going to weed the garden, you're going to do this." And if it worked, you know, I didn't have to do any of the work, but I had got like $6 by the time it was over, you know. If it didn't work, and if they didn't, then my butt was on the line. But at the end of it, he wouldn't pay me because I didn't invoice him. And I was like, what is an invoice? And he wouldn't tell me. So I had to go on Google. I had to figure out what an invoice was, document all the stuff, and go with the invoice to finally go get paid. I think I got paid like twice the whole summer because I hated writing invoices. So like, but it was so amazing that he did that. So I 100% am indoctrinating my kids. Every time I lift them over the baby gate, I quiz them. Besides mother, what's one of the greatest things you can do with your life? Salesman! And I'm like, yep. And I go, and I bring them over there. Like, anyway.
I love it. That's awesome. So basically your dad helped to build you as an entrepreneur.
I watched him launch a few of his own companies, and, you know, I'm sure that just by being near it, it kind of helped. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. I love that story. Okay. So last question, bit of advice. So like I said, my audience for people that are starting out or they're struggling in the game. Now for the people that are thinking about starting out and they're sitting on the fence and like, oh, I want to take this step, but I'm scared. What would your advice be?
I would say to sit with the fear, meaning don't act like you're not being afraid. I think it's one of the biggest banes of society and humanity right now is to act like we're not experiencing an emotion. Yes. So I'll just say, like, I have a 3-step little system, little process that I do every time I go on stage because I get scared still.
Yeah.
I get nervous.
Yes.
I don't get scared. I get a little anxiety. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I trip? You know, like at Funnel Hacking Live. Like I always get nervous.
Yeah.
So number one, I am a human with human emotions. So if I'm feeling a feeling, I want to feel the feeling. That's actually step one. That's what I call it. Step one, feel the feeling. Mm-hmm. Now, what I say that is, I mean, if I'm feeling fear, I actually want to look at it and confront and feel fear to the fullest extent. I want to feel the most afraid I've ever felt. And it's going to sound weird, but it's the truth. If I'm feeling anxiety, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to experience anxiety. I actually want to have anxiety. Happiness, let me feel the full weight and the full extent of what it means to be happy in my life. This is my own process. This is not anywhere else. So just so y'all know, this is a Steven doctrine here. All right. This is not like doesn't come from anywhere, but this is how I handle it. Cause I still get freaked out. Anyway, so number one, I feel the feeling, but then number two, I recognize that I'm not my feeling. This is a very key thing to understand. I'm not fear. I'm experiencing fear. I'm not anxiety. I'm experiencing anxiety. And so what that does is after I've taken a moment to feel whatever's going on in my life, I take a moment to become, this is a quote from Tony Robbins, "We are not our feelings." I take a moment to separate myself from the emotion and look at it and be like, okay, this is me experiencing that thing. Mm-hmm. But it actually sets me up for step number 3, which is micro steps. I have to have micro wins. Mm-hmm. So I just start coming up with small things I could do to just start moving me towards the goal. My entire company has been built by me only doing 3 things every day. Yes. That's it. Otherwise I'm going to die. It's too much stuff.
You can't. So, yeah. And there's no such thing as a to-do list. It's called a success list. And it's 2 to 3 things. And that's what I teach my students as well. Else you're just like, you can't do it. It's just too hard.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
My morning stand-up meeting every day that I have with my team, I just like, they all have 3 things they're doing. I'm doing my 3 things. And under that principle, we've built everything. It's like, otherwise you will die at your desk, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's how successful companies are built, because you're focusing on the right things as well.
Yeah.
The green dots, which I learned from you.
Yeah.
Steve, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time so much. Thank you very, very much. Yes, I will upload this episode and we will drop all Steve's links to all his products and whatever else he's got. And then you guys can go and find him. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. This is fantastic. It's been cool to watch you also, Joy. I certainly have noticed you and everything. So it's been awesome.
Thank you so much. And have a good lockdown. And go have fun running the mountains there by you.
That's right. Awesome. See you later, Joy.